What's up, everybody? It is that time. We got Bleav in Kentucky, Bleav Podcast Network, number one network for professionals. I am with 0096 champ, MOP of the tournament, the NBA vet himself, TD Tony Delk. My name is Vinny Hardy. What's good with you, TD?
Benny, what's happening, my brother? Nothing much, man. Just enjoying this nice, pleasant day. I know we had some a little bad news, but we got to look at what happened to one of our favorite golfers. We'll talk about that in
Mhm.
our podcast. But just really just still watching this collegiate basketball. It's getting more and more exciting as we get closer and closer to March Madness. I'm getting excited, and I think with Gonzaga and Baylor, I don't see where they're going to lose it, man. It seems like those two teams are on a class course. They're close to being, undefeated by the time the regular season ends. But they're in position really right now to be like one of the teams that could finish this season with the undefeated record. So it brings more excitement to college basketball when you have two teams that have held on to being undefeated this late in the season. And, for our guys who missed March Madness last year, at least they're getting a chance to, at least they know there's going to be be a March Madness this year.
Now, with a lot of the blue bloods struggling, we know about our cats struggling. We'll get to them. They got a little mini win streak going. North Carolina struggling, Duke struggling, Kansas struggling, all these teams struggling. If Gonzaga doesn't win it this year, will they ever win it? Because all the big dogs might not be there, and if they are, they're going to be not as strong as they normally usually are.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking of all the years that a team is undefeated and getting the chance to go into finishing their conference tournament, headed into March Madness. I see them being the team that this year, this is their year to win it. If it's any, I know there's been years in the past when they lost to North Carolina in the championship game. I don't think they was ready. They played a solid game, but I think we all knew North Carolina was going to win that game. But this is their year to win it. Of all the years, now they might meet Baylor somewhere in that Final Four, that semi or championship game, but what it's going to look like, those two teams will go in being number one seed, and then Gonzaga will be the number one overall seed. So that's going to mean they're probably going to meet in the championship game. So I'm excited. Both teams, stay on course and keep playing the way they're playing. And if Gonzaga, I think they are the best team in the country. I know I've seen Baylor play a couple times. I like them, but I just think Gonzaga just has something. They're a special team this year.
Does playing in their conference, which they run that every year, when it gets to March, does that hurt them? Is that what hurts them when they get in the tournament? Because they go 18-0 every year against St. Mary's and San Diego and all that. Does that lower, their competition isn't as steep as the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever. Does that hurt them when it comes tournament time every year?
I really don't think. I don't think this year that should be a factor. I just think that they have three guys that can be pros, well coached. They have veteran guys, and this is their year. I mean, if they lose, it's going to take a bad performance by them, but also a great performance by an opponent. So it's to me, it's their championship to lose. I just don't see them making that mistake, and I think Mark Few has been in enough of these big games and to prepare his players. I don't think it's coming as a shock, just to see, wow, Gonzaga making it to the Elite Eight, Gonzaga making it to the Final Four. They've been to the championship game. So he's a coach that's been as far as he can go. But I think this is the year to cut down the net. So yeah, they might not be playing in the best conference, but it doesn't take away from what they've done and how they beaten a lot of opponents. They've beaten some really good mid-major opponents that have veteran guys. So it's not like they're just playing against teams that don't have veteran players. Those mid-major teams have gotten better over the years because they do have men that are 21, 22 that have grown men. So it's not like you going against 18, 19-year-old kids. they're going against grown men that's been in a program for a few years, but just the way they're playing. They defend, they shoot the three. Really good point guard, have a lottery pick point guard. So I think this is the year. I'll be shocked, like I said, if they don't win it. It probably would take Baylor to beat them in order for me. And if Baylor get there and they win, hats off to them. They've been solid this year too. Now I know they've been off 21 days. So that's maybe a setback for them as they get ready to start, finishing up the regular season, but getting ready for conference play.
As you progress through your career at Kentucky, freshman year, sophomore year, figuring stuff out, you get to be a junior year. You've been playing in the tournament every year. When it got closer to tournament time, your junior and senior year as an upperclassman, were there things that yourself and say a Walter McCarty already could do on your own without the coaches having to tell you to get you ready for that time of year? Like as my parents used to tell me, hey, look, man, you see the garbage need to be taken out. Don't wait for us to tell you to take the garbage out. Go ahead and do that yourself. Stuff like, was there stuff by the time you're an upperclassman that, look, we already know what we need to do to get ourselves playing our best ball in March? Was that stuff that you all could do without, Coach Pitino and the staff having to tell you all to do it?
You know what? It's funny you said that too, because I think with kids, especially this generation, you do have to, tell them to do things over and over again, and I just picked it up right away. If my dad told me to do something, my mom's, I was on it. You didn't have to tell me a second, third, or fourth time. It became a part of my routine. So it starts with your parents, telling you, and, I shouldn't have to keep reminding you over and over again to do the same thing. And I told my kid just a couple of days ago about basketball, stop making the same mistake over and over again. Like, what are you learning if you keep making the same mistake all over again? Show me something new, do something different, but I need you to correct that mistake so you get so good at it that it's not a mistake anymore. But when we made it to the Final Four, and I was happy just to get there, we made it to the Final Four. We lost against the Fab Five. I think it was in New Orleans. But for me, I just wasn't excited to get back to the Final Four. I'm like, I've been there, done that before. And I think that helped our team because I was looking at the bigger picture. I'm like, we got to get to the championship game. We've been close, but we haven't been there. Mm-hmm. And for us getting there in 96, it allowed us to get back 2 more years because those guys experienced that championship with us. Jeff Shepard, Cameron, Scott Padgett, Allen Edwards, Nazi, Wayne Turner, Anthony Epps, Ron and Derek. Those guys experienced, so that catapulted them into getting back to where they were. And 97 and 98 was just, guys that were 2 years older than them. So they experienced it. And going back to 92, 93 season, just losing and not really being a part of it, that was the hardest thing because I was in and out of the rotation, and I only played in that game because someone got hurt. So to be honest with you, I played in the Final Four game, played about 20 plus minutes. And if Dale Brown doesn't hurt his shoulder, I know I don't get in. And Dale was having a unbelievable game. I think he had like 16 or 18 points before he got injured. When that happened, it was more about, Mash carrying the team. Then Mash got fouled. He ended up fouled out the game. Yeah. And we was really only down to Travis Ford. So what they did with Travis Ford, they put Jalen Rose on him, 6'9" guard and 5'9", 5'10". So we know how that ended up. But that experience really helped me, and as we got to that Final Four, I said, hey guys, we made it here. Let's not be satisfied. Let's not get complacent and say, well, we made it to the Final Four. I said, no, man, let's cut these nets down and let's be a part of history.
You mentioned it, and for all the listeners, y'all be sure to rate, subscribe, review, give us 5 stars on the podcast, tell your friends about it, post about it, tweet about it, get the word out about the podcast. For y'all that have listened to past episodes, y'all know TD, you talked about how your mom and dad, neither one of them drove. And you being the youngest, it made me wonder about your older siblings, your oldest brother or sister. Who taught them how to drive? Where they learn how to drive?
You know what? I think it's a story I'm gonna have to ask them at some point in time. Like, who taught you how to drive? 'Cause we didn't have
Yeah.
a car. I'm telling you, like when I learned how to drive, it was a guy that came by and he was actually our garbage man. And man, when I tell when I tell you he was like the worst smelling man, but he had a car. So he came by, I was like, man, like I gotta go with my license. So my dad hopped in the front seat. I'm in the back seat. And when I tell you, like, he smelled like trash, he smelled like trash. So I'm going to get my license. I have to drive his car. And I know the person that got in the car was like, man, you are stinky. But I knew it wasn't me. And but his name, I can't forget his name. I think his last name was Sangster. But anyway, he was the one that actually drove us up there, to get my license. And with my siblings, I don't know. That's like a trivia question. I should just find out from them. But it was when you're in a small town, you can get a chance. Neighbors can come by and pick you up. For many years, I would be on my bike going everywhere I need to go to the grocery store. I got I went from neighborhood to neighborhood. But sometime my mom and we would walk to the grocery store and pick up groceries. We hop in the taxi, and it's so funny. I look at in today's what's going on with today's parents and kids, and how the parents are always taking the kids different places. But when you're in a small town, you have to figure it out, and that's what I had to do as a freshman in high school. Because when my friends didn't make the varsity team, that was my ride to high school. So I would have to hop in with my coach sometime. Our trainer would take me home, but I found a way to get home every day from practice.
Yeah. Like, so when you went to get your license, did you went and like practice in a field or a parking lot somewhere before,
You know, my brother he lived a house down, so he would uh, every once in a while he would let me drive. He would take me out, and we would go to a parking lot,
Yeah.
and we would just drive in the parking lot. So he would let me take his car every once in a while. So I knew how to drive. I started driving, I was like maybe 14.
Yeah.
And it really, with the older brothers just being around, they were teaching me, because of course I couldn't. My mom and dad can teach me anything.
Right. I was like, man, I gotta ask about that.
Yeah. It's funny when I tell the story, and somebody was like, did their license get suspended? They didn't have license. Was it revoked? I was like, no, it wasn't revoked. They never had to drive. And when live somewhere, like my brother was telling me a story that he would have to walk like 3 or 4 miles to school sometimes. And I was like, dude, he was like, that's one way. I said, so you have to walk back? He was like, yeah. I said, what about the cars? He was like, man, sometimes, we just be in the grass walking. Um, when it rained, they had to walk to school. So we are and I was privileged too. I'm not privileged compared to how they grew up. And then my kids are even more privileged than I am, so it's like, they never see the struggle. I hear about the struggles, and when you get a chance to go back and visit your family, and they start telling the stories, I was like, wow, man, like I thought I had it hard, but nowhere near to how they live.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, man, the thing that everybody was buzzing about, and when you played Louisville, you said it wasn't a rivalry because y'all took care of it
No, no
every single
rivalry.
time. Louisville beat Kentucky this year, and first time, I think that's the second time they beaten Kentucky since Calipari's been there. So they're like
Right.
2-11 against Kentucky under Cal. Um, Chris Mack and Louisville offensive lineman Eric Wood made like a WWE video. You've been a wrestling fan. I bet you enjoyed that because they were Kentucky will never ever beat Louisville again since Kenny Payne's gone. They're never gonna be. So that was, it was straight WWE, man. So they had their fun, and I thought it was funny, but it's just
Oh, it was.
it's back and forth rivalry stuff now, and look,
Yeah.
and the way I was thinking about it, look, Louisville won. You got bragging rights for 364 days of the year. It is
Yeah.
what it is. So they doing what they doing.
But you know what? But also, it was a game that, you look at the last two possessions, we had a chance to win the game. So it wasn't, it's different when there is a blowout. Like if they had to beat us by 10, 15 points, okay, now, all right, yeah, y'all might be back, at least competitive. But when you just barely win on a, sorry, we'd put like we had a chance to win the game twice.
Yeah.
So if that makes you happy and you're going to take that as a more victory, I mean, it lets you know how dominant Kentucky has been over Louisville for all those years. Is that they're not even looking at, okay, man, if he hits the shot at the end of the game, we win the game. And now, what are we talking about here? So unless you can come back and here's the thing too, this has by far been Cal's worst season. So you barely beat us when Cal is having his worst season. So imagine if these guys stay, another good recruiting class come in, which, we will have some more players, what it's going to look like next year. Because you're not going to forget that you got to come visit us. You know what I'm saying? We almost beat you in, at the Yum Center.
Yeah.
Now you got to come visit us. And, most of those players who will still be there, they'll still be hearing, what the Louisville fans are saying, what the Louisville players are saying. So we'll get a chance to redeem ourselves when it comes back to Rupp Arena. So I'm excited about at least what could happen next season. And then, just like I said, with our Cats, they play well. They played well the last 3 games. And even going to Knoxville, I don't think anyone saw Kentucky getting that victory.
Yeah, it's been tough in Knoxville historically. Rupp struggled. Lots of Kentucky teams went down there and struggled and gotten beat. And for this one to go down there and win by 15, like you said, nobody saw that one coming. This is the first time that in the same academic year, Corey Price tweets out all these stats, the same fall, winter, school year that Kentucky won in Knoxville in football and in basketball since 1958-59.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because for years, Kentucky football never won in Knoxville. And then in the years that they did get a win, the basketball team would lose. So
right.
Like 70, I think 78, the football team won down there. In 76, they won, but basketball lost both times. So you had to go way back to 58-59 when football and basketball both won in Knoxville in the same semester kind of school year. So that's 60 years.
I think when you look at just that game and how Kentucky has played the last 3 games, like they're getting multiple players in double figures. And we were struggling early, just trying to get 60 points in a game. Yeah. And and also just finding the right rotation. I think that's where Coach Cal was, playing Allen a little bit more. I think when Keon Brooks came back, it gave him another veteran, another guy that he can trust and step on the court. And, he can score, defend, rebound. The other guys, the guards, Mintz and Askew, they're getting better, but just the low number of turnovers. I think early on we probably was averaging somewhere between 15, 20 turnovers a game.
Yeah.
And it just let me know that these guys wasn't used to playing one another, but also were just making bad passes and not reading the defense. But when you can start getting multiple players in double figures, you're not just relying on, I thought it was a lot of pressure on BJ Boston coming in because he was the best player that we had signed, in the previous year. And he wasn't delivering early, but also he had to get acclimated to the collegiate game. It's easier to think in his mind, probably in his mind and most of the fans' mind, that he was just going to come in. He was going to be this lottery pick. He was going to dominate. And it wasn't that easy for him, and teams knew that. Teams started making adjustments to what he was doing well. And I think also, not having Clark makes a huge difference because that's another player that we haven't talked about in months. But if he's out there, that's another potential go-to player. He probably was going to be, our starting point guard. He could have possibly been like a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. We don't know how good he could have been at that position, but you lose him early. So now you kind of like, okay, who are our rotation guys? Toppin's been, he's played well, but he really doesn't have the depth that he's had in previous, like in depth, not to get to that 9th and 10th man, but just your 6th and 7th guy are players. So that's what he's really been missing, is not having a strong bench. And I think putting Keon back on the bench, it gives him someone he can put in the game. He can go in and play. He can score. He can rebound. And it's also someone he can trust.
Yeah. And Clark and Keon and Boston never played a game together, the 3 of them. Because when Clark was playing, I think he played 7 games this year. Keon wasn't back yet. And then
Nope.
when Keon's back, Clark is out and probably going to be out for the rest of the season unless they, make a run in the SEC tournament, and there may be a slim chance he comes back, but it's
right.
doubtful that he's coming back. I was listening to Kyra Elsie's radio show the other day, and she just said something that you don't even think about. We talked a lot about scout reports. You talked about them as a player. You talked about them making them when you became joining the coaching staff and getting them up and getting in the gym before the players and getting all the information ready for them. She was just praising her staff and how good they've been through this year, and with her stepping into the head coach role right before the season started, and how much she had to lean on her staff. And she said, but this year is crazy. She said there's times where an assistant coach will work up a scout, and then that game gets postponed. You do all that work, and then you got to move on to another. I hadn't even thought about that in this year in the pandemic.
Yeah.
But that is just crazy, man. It's, you just got to move on to the next opponent after you did all this to get ready, and we ain't playing them.
That's what I'm saying. Like you take a Baylor who's, missed 21 games, 21 days before they, play the next game. And then, like I said, just looking at the Kentucky game, Kentucky's had maybe 3 or 4 games that have been postponed this year. So for that coach, it takes hours and hours to get a scout ready. You're talking about, man, probably 12 to 13 hours, just watching tape, going over plays, trying to remember these plays, underneath out of bounds, side out of bounds. And then you got to present that in front of the team. So, the first time you don't think about it as a player, how much time goes into what these assistant coach are doing, until you actually become one. I'm like, oh man, this is a lot of work. So when I was at New Mexico State, I remember doing my first scout, I think I remember I got there probably like 5 a.m. So I was there at 5 a.m. and I was working all day, so my scout wasn't for like another maybe 6 or 7 days. So of course I went to the assistant coaches who had been there, Paul Weir, and one of our coaches, we call him Boogie, Coach Brown. I just was asking those guys questions like, hey, what I need to put in the scout? They was like, hey, you got to make sure you know the offense, you got to know the defense. You got to spend time, knowing these plays, underneath, out of bounds, press breaker, half court. Then you have to know personnel. You have to know each player's strength. So it's not just like you just present that scouting report in front of your person, in front of the team. You can have those plays. Those plays, you have to actually know those plays. And you would think you would have a little note card coming out there, like, your little cheat sheet. No, you got to. So the coach expect for you to know those plays, put the players in the right position. And then, when it comes game time, that post game, pregame is, now you got to come up in front of I remember I was so nervous. I was like, man, I got the 12 players watching me, the coaches behind me, and I'm going over the first player, the second player. Then you got to get into the plays. And so once you do it a couple of times, you start getting a little rhythm. But, it's always nerve-wracking the first time you do a scouting report because, you want to nail it. You want to get it right. So the whole time the game is taking place, now all the sets, you telling the players where to go, and you want to win your scout, although it's the team game, but that's your scout that you spent all those hours, just watching and so then you have to give, I think scouting report's probably 10 to 15 pages long, and you got to come in and print all those out and give all the players their scout, give the coaches their scout. So as soon as I knew my scout was, when I had my scout coming up, I would always just, I would start weeks earlier, just kind of getting information. And I would also call coaches, some of the coaches that had played against those teams. So it's really just giving your edge. So what she was talking about, when you spend like 4 or 5 days working on that scout and the game is postponed, you're a little bit upset.
Man. And we talk about the scout report. And Kentucky just beat Tennessee. You flash back, I think, to 2009. Jody Meeks scores 54 at Tennessee. One of the bright spots of the Billy Gillispie era.
The
they did
only
a,
bright spot.
they did an article a few years ago about that. They went back and talked to Bruce Pearl. They went back and talked to all the players, and just kind of an oral history of that. And when Jody scored 54, that was Steve Forbes' scout, who's the coach at Wake Forest. Now, I don't even think he wanted to comment. I don't even think he didn't even want to comment about the article because that was his scout when Jody Meeks went for 54. And so he's still, still kind of in his feelings about it.
He's kind of salty about it, yeah. But you know what's so funny? Like he also, Jody broke my 3-point record that night. I was sitting there watching, it's funny when, and I've known Jody for many years, but just a quality guy, good dude. It does make a huge difference when you do that scout and a player gets hot. There's nothing you can do about it. He's a scorer. He has the green light. He's going to get shots. And when you watch a player like a James Harden, a Kyrie Irving, a LeBron, everybody's going to have one of those games. You take a Fred VanVleet who had, 54 this year. Somebody did that scout, and did they know he was going to go off of 54? Like the most I think he scored up until that point was like maybe in his 30s. Mm-hmm. So now it's just one of those nights where you're hot and there's nothing you can do. And that's how, I was watching that game. I was like, man, he wasn't missing anything. He was just on fire. And he just happened to be on the road, and it just happened to be somebody else scout. Yeah. Where it's like, dude, what you want me to do? But I think what great coaches can make adjustments during the game. In a timeout, possibly at halftime. And when a player gets that hot, you have to decide, do we double team him, or do we just like run, or we just tell somebody else, hey, your job and responsibility is just stay at home on him. We're going to go a boxing one, and we just going to make these other guys beat us. And he wasn't having it. He was like, I'm getting the ball. I'm going to dominate. There's nothing y'all can do. Nobody can stop me. And when you're scored, you're going to have a few of those games.
Exactly. I'm going to take a minute and talk about our sponsor, eBay. Last week with Walter McCarty on, you were checking to see if your sneakers were going to arrive on time. So eBay is in the sneaker game. So we got to talk about them since they're sponsoring Bleav in Kentucky. Whether rare dead stock or the latest release, find the exact shoe you're looking for. As the original sneaker marketplace, eBay is the place to go to cop the pair you've been eyeing. With eBay's authenticity guarantee, your sneakers are meticulously inspected by independent professional authenticators. A team of experienced sneaker authenticators verify the logo, the box, the stitching, and dozens of other inspection points. Each sneaker also receives an authenticity guarantee, a tag that includes a digital stamp of authenticity, and it also protects sellers with a verified return process. And for sneaker sellers out there, eBay has eliminated selling fees on sneakers $100 and up, making it free to sell or flip your collection. So go to ebay.com/sneakers today. eBay, the world's best destination for discovering great value and unique selection. So eBay in the sneaker game, definitely check that out, ebay.com. You mentioned Jody Meeks breaking your record. He hit 10 threes that night at Tennessee. You were in the record book with 9 against TCU. You go to bigbluehistory.net, you all up in there with 6 threes, 7 threes, 8 threes. When you little 3-pointers in a single game, mm-hmm. Tony Delk is all in there. You had 9, Jody hit 10. But do you remember anything about the game where you hit 9 against TCU? Because I remember you said you were mad when you had 7 against Syracuse in the championship games. You thought you were going to end up with more.
Man, I thought we'd have about 10, 11 threes against Syracuse. When you have 6 the first half, you're like, okay, man, worst case scenario, I'm at least going to make 3 more.
Yeah.
And I got stuck I only had that 1 4-point play. But going back to the TCU game, it was when I look back at it, I took 12 threes and we was up like 25, 30 points. And I remember coach taking me out the game, and Derek Miller had the record for 8 at the time. So I went out the game with 7, and coach, we talked to him, and he wasn't going to let me go back in the game. He was like, finished, came out. Everybody else, he was like, okay, you basically got 2 minutes to get this done. And this is what he said. He's like, you can't get hurt in this game. He was like, we're looking at the bigger picture. We're not just trying to help you get this record. But I'm like, every once in a while, when a player gets hot or he's that close to a record, you put him back in the game. So I went back in the game. I took 2 threes, made both, and took me right out of the game. And there must have been like maybe 10 to 12 more minutes left. But that was one of those nights I probably could have went for like 12, 13 threes. Because I think I took 12. I was 9 for 12 from the 3-point line. And those 2, when I tell you, I went right back in. One was a high rainbow shot. The other one came, swung at me. I shot it. And I looked over there. I'm like, I can't believe this. Somebody at the scores table to come and get me. Wow. I'm like, this dude, so I don't even think I stayed up there for 2 minutes. I just think I got 2 shots up. So the players, they got the ball to him. I took the 2 shots and sat on the bench the rest of the way. But, it's one of those times where, I can go back to high school where my coach just when I say let me rock, he let me rock. He let me stay in the game. And he was like, okay, let's see how many points you can get. and he let me go. And he just gave that's a different green light, when you can have that green light. Like there's no shot that I took that I ever took in high school I thought was a bad shot. But he also allowed me just to be able to have that freedom. And that's something that when you come to college and you start playing with other great players, you're not gonna get that many attempts. There were games I might have had 16 or 17 attempts. I never really got into the mid-20s. Never could, because we had a bunch of dudes who wanted to score, especially when Antoine Walker got there. There was no way I could get in the mid-20s. Every time it touched his hand, he was like putting it up. Then you had other guys that was trying to score, but it made us a really versatile team. You can just have so many different multiple scores. Like when I watch Kentucky when they win games, it's not just one person scoring. It's not just 2 people scoring. You start seeing 4 and 5 guys, and the scoring that helps with the scoring as far as like, now we're not just relying on this one guy, and it takes the pressure off a guy like Boston.
Did you ever think about getting in the 3-point contest while you were in NBA?
No, I never did. And I think the one year I had a really high percentage. I was in Boston, and I twisted my ankle, and I probably missed about maybe 4 to 6 weeks with that ankle. And I was maybe like around 42, 43, because at that time, Boston, Coach O'Brien was a coach, and we basically every other shot was a 3-pointer. So we started shooting a lot of threes back in like 03, 04. And that year I was having a really good season. Probably was like second or third in the league and making threes. And I think Antoine, we was like right together. Then I get hurt, and I probably missed, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks with an ankle injury. And that was the only time I think. But it's funny. Everyone thinks it's easy to start just shooting threes like that. Like, you got to get the rhythm. You still have the crowd. There's pressure, because I tried to do it one time in high school, and I probably made about 3 threes. Wow. It was awful. Yeah, it was bad on my home court.
Oh, man. So yeah, that's totally different. Running to the racks and just it's totally different in a game.
But you know what, you gotta practice on it. So most of these guys, even though we're thinking like, okay, these guys just walking in the gym. When you're in the 3-point shootout, the 3-point contest, you have 3 or 4 people start rebounding for you, and you get those racks and just put the balls on it, and you start going around, because it is a rhythm thing. But you will get tired, knowing that I got to make this many shots in a minute, and you really have your concentration has to be great, and focus, being lined up. When that ball leaves your hand, you got to get the next ball. So it's a rhythm to it. It's not like those guys just walk in and they just start shooting threes. I'm like, no, trust me. Pros are practicing because they don't want to embarrass themselves. You don't want to, shoot 25 shots and make 2.
Yeah.
So I learned my lesson in high school.
With Kentucky, like showing a little life, with this 3-game winning streak. How weird was it? Because last week they left for Vanderbilt like Sunday or Monday because of weather that was coming through, and they just stayed in Tennessee. After they left Knoxville, they just came on up to Nashville. They didn't go back to Lexington.
I didn't know
How
that.
weird would that be as a player just to be on the road for a straight week? Now, I mean, NBA, I mean, y'all had them long road trips.
Yeah, we do it in the NBA. Yeah.
In college, to go from Nashville to Knoxville in a pandemic, all you can do is just stay in the hotel. How
Yeah.
weird would that be from your normal routine as a player?
I think it's great bonding. If you get a chance to spend time with your players, um, it build chemistry. You see the cohesiveness starts to come out, personality. You spending time with the coaches. You learning more about the game. You get a chance to, I think it's less pressure when you're on the road. Like I always felt there was less pressure to go on the road and try to win games. And it was fun, to see those fans have to lead a game early or or shut the crowd up. They're not cheering no more. So I love going on the road. But I was thinking about when that Vandy game after the game that I guess Coach Cal and Stackhouse they didn't shake hands, but Coach Cal threw up the deuces, man, and Stack didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? He was like, "Oh, that's how we're gonna rock now. You gonna give me the deuces?" And Stack is my guy though. And I saw that. I looked at it, I was like, did he just oh man, he throw up the deuces?
Because
I don't know.
yeah, I think he's been waving at guys after games. I
He
know they
talked to
ain't
Rick
shaking hands,
Barnes. Nope, no, he didn't.
but that's
So
true.
after the game, he
That's
went and
true.
talked to Rick Barnes. So
That's true.
and
And
that's
and Stackhouse and Nate Oates dapped it up the next game, Vanderbilt and Alabama. Stackhouse and Nate Oates was
yeah.
so I don't know. I don't know. So but he gave him that little he waited.
Yep. Man, see, I'm out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, I'm out of here. Forget you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is true. You sure did. Look, this is the second time the Texas A&M game has been canceled. Postponed. It
They,
didn't happen
they, they need
early.
to move. They need to move on from that game. They need to put someone else on the schedule, man. Just forget Texas A&M and let's just move
Yeah,
on.
and
That's not gonna happen.
I think it's a Texas thing. They couldn't play Texas, and then the two games with Texas A&M both didn't come through. Something with the state of Texas, it just hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been working out. With them, winning three in a row, how much does it suck that they can't get this game in because they're finally looking like they're in a rhythm, and now you got to wait until Saturday before you play again.
Well, I think it's like you said earlier, you got a rhythm going right now, and you want to keep that rhythm going and keep playing good basketball. And that's where, when I look at the schedule, I was like, oh, they get a chance to play at home and possibly get another win. I was looking forward to it. So those guys, rhythm wise and confidence, that's what we're seeing as they play. And we always see Coach Cal teams around this time of year start playing their best basketball. And even with this team, they didn't get off to a great start, had a lot of close losses. They didn't have any identity. They turned the ball over quite a bit. But now we're seeing a different team. And some of that comes from just having Brooks back, but also just getting a lot of games under your belt, just getting games against good opponents. And now when you're facing some of these teams in the SEC, other than probably Alabama, who was shown they are the best team in the conference, you can beat these other teams. If you can hang in there and go beat a ranked Tennessee team on the road by 15 points, I think that's confidence within itself. Like they have to Bleav now.
Yeah, for sure they do. It just came out, the NBA All-Star reserves came out, and Julius Randle made his first All-Star game. So cool to see him get named to the East squad up there in New York. And his mom, they put her up on the jumbotron there in the arena, and he at a timeout he looked up, and there she was, congratulating him. So it was a pretty cool moment to see Julius get his first All-Star selection.
And he should have been. I mean, it was, I was looking at Julius. I don't know if Zach Levine made it, and they were talking about
He did.
he did good. They were talking about we're trying to think of my guard from Cleveland. Went to Alabama.
Yeah, Colin Sexton.
Yeah, they were talking about him, but they lost too many games. I'm like, nah. And on top of that, I thought as well as Bill is playing, James Harden should have been the starter. Like that dude is the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you look at just how dominant Brooklyn has been, and it's so funny as I'm watching and hearing some of these teams that didn't want to, trade players or didn't want to give up compensation to get James Harden. I know Pat Riley was he was definitely not one of those guys. He was going to give up some players to get James Harden because James Harden is the player that makes the guys around him better. This he's probably the best dual threat that I have seen in a few years. Just being able to score and facilitate. And he score on a high clip and he can get you 15, 16 assists because he's that hard to guard. And also being a left-handed player, that's something that a lot of right-handed players struggle with guarding those guys. And I used to have a problem with left-handed guards. You don't see him that often. And then when you craft it, he's strong. He can shoot the three from deep. He finishes at the basket, with him being 6'5", 6'6", he can see over defenses. He makes the game easy for everyone. And so, like I said, when you look at Julius Randle, he's been balling from the first game. Like, it's almost like you wait for that guy to be like, okay, all right, when is he going to stop playing well? He's been playing well all season. So he's definitely deserving of him being deserving of his first All-Star appearance.
When you look at the East, a lot of records, teams barely over 500. Milwaukee is not the same. Toronto, Philadelphia, they all just hovering around, 17-13, those type of records. Is it, even Boston is kind of struggling. Is it kind of New Jersey, Brooklyn and everybody else? Or you think, as far as coming out of the East, you think Brooklyn really should come on out? It's championship or bust for them. That's why they got this team to put together. But you think it really is kind of Brooklyn and then everybody else is fighting for second?
I really do I like Philly. I think Philly presents a problem with Embiid, Simmons, and that group of guys. I think they could present a problem because with Embiid having an MVP like season, they really don't have. I know DeAndre Jordan to be the person guarding him, but I think that makes it difficult for them. When they have to go against a strong big, and he can be really dominant. So that's where I look at him and say, okay, what really hurt them? And it's funny too because I was trying to think when what were they going to give up to get James Harden? And I thought if they could have held on Brooklyn Nets, they could have held on to Jarrett Allen. Could you imagine how good they would be with Jarrett Allen? I know it was tough giving up Karis LeVert, but if they could have kept Jarrett Allen as a backup or even a starter to DeAndre Jordan, with James Harden, I don't even know. Like they would be that tough. The Lakers without AD is a different looking team. It's put so much pressure on LeBron right now to, perform at, as if he was in his 12th season. So a lot of wear and tear on them legs, and they haven't. I think they've lost 3 out of 4 games possibly, but just let you know how great a player that he is, but also just missing AD. And AD is not having, the kind of year he had a couple of years ago, even like last year. Mm-hmm. And some of that is, he probably does have it with that strained calf muscle. He has to be very careful with that.
Mm-hmm. And then that quick turnaround, there wasn't much of an off season. The Lakers won in the bubble and, felt like a month and a half later, if that, the season was starting again. It was just a quick turnaround. So I think the wear and tear is really going to, second half of the season, kind of catch up with guys for sure. Wrapping up, man, it was opening day for UK baseball. They won 5-1 to beat Miami of Ohio. And you won a lot of hardware at Kentucky, a lot of SEC titles, national championship. Gotta give it up for UK women's swimming and diving. They won their first SEC championship in the history of the program over the past weekend. So gotta give them love, man.
Much love to the diving, swimming and diving. I know, it's a sport that goes not talked about as much, but also, they put in just as much work as basketball, football, and baseball. So I'm happy for them. He was telling me a story about Coach Mitchell jumped in jumped in the water to congratulate his
Mitch Barnhart. Yeah,
Mitch Barnhart. He jumped in and congratulated his team. Yeah, that's big time. That's big time from the AD.
I just found it's like a little GIF or GIF or whatever. So I have to send it to you so you can see for yourself, man. He
I got to see that firsthand. Like
jumped
that's
right in there. That ain't his personality, but he let loose and just dove right on in there, man.
But you know what? I think over the years his personality has changed. And I think he has become a person that wasn't so, I would say,
Uptight.
a suit and tie guy, uptight
Yeah.
in the suit. But you sometimes you have to let loose, let people know you have a personality. You're doing your job, but with this generation of kids, with social media, they bring you into stuff where you might not want to be involved, but it's like, man, let me just unbutton my shirt, loosen my tie, and let me have fun.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. And I think when players see that, now they want to hang out with you, be like, okay, he's cool after all. He's not a square.
Yeah. And Cal was messing with him because he did take his shoes and socks off and took his wallet out. Cal was like, man, just jump on in there. Why are you gonna take your shoes and socks off?
Yeah, man, what you doing, man?
But, for the most part, he jumped in there, but shoes and socks and wallet was on the side of the pool, but everything else he was in there dripping wet with him. So congratulations.
You need them credit cards, man. Like, so you can't jump in there with you. You probably had a cell phone in his pocket too. Now you can't jump in with your cell phone. That doesn't. Like I said, they're gonna be like, man, what? Somebody trying to reach me right now? My cell phone is all wet. So he did the right thing. He emptied his pockets.
Absolutely. And y'all know all these episodes will also be on A Sea of Blue. And we got to roll out and give love to La Terrain. TD, y'all got the commemorative 25th anniversary championship watch. Dave and Ben just put together a fire watch, the collection, all your ideas, the TD watch, the Red Crest, the Voyager, the National Championship Edition with yourself and Walter McCarty. 96 of them. BBN, get in there quick because it's only gonna be 96.
Yes, sir.
Yes. LaTerrain.com.
That is it. Only 96 will be made. This is the only and the last time you're gonna see them. I'm excited about them. Like I said, I think Ben and Dave, those guys have definitely done a really good job of just having a really cool timepiece that marks all the good work we did. For myself, 4 years. Some of the guys got a chance to get it early after the season, and but I think what Dave was doing was trying to create a timepiece that looked good for us, that was classy, but also something that you can wear if you got your sweats on or you got your shorts on. Just having a extra band, and plus the case is cool. So the case has a lot of meaning behind it. So now you can just have that nice watch, even if you don't want to wear it, because I'm sure I'll wear it every once in a while, but also just having it in the case with some of my other hardware, that's what I plan on doing with that watch.
Absolutely. Well, man, got another great episode in the can, TD. We'll see what happens with the rematch against Florida. Kentucky went down there and beat them, and now they get a Rupp Arena. So we'll see.
We need it.
Yeah, that's it's not been a lot of games where they look great, but back when they were struggling, they looked good against Florida. That was one where they went down there and okay. And now we got a 3-game winning streak, trying to end the season on a high note and hit the SEC tournament and with guns blazing, because that's the only hope.
You know what's so funny? Right before we get off, is I'm looking at what Julius Randle is doing. I think his passing is underrated, and we look at it as his points and his rebound, but he's a really good passer. And when I look at his box scores, I'm like, man, 8, 9, 10 assists. So he is a complete player. And you look back at what some of the players that left the Lakers, and I know LeBron is 2 or 3 players within himself, but when you can just have, a talented player like that, and he's still pushing himself, and teams still believe in him. And I don't know, man, it might be KP. Who knows? KP might be that dude.
That's it. That's what Chris Mack think anyway.
He sure does.
Oh, man. So yeah, it'd be fun to get them back when they come back to Rupp. And look, they celebrating, like when Kentucky beat Tennessee in football, I was there at Commonwealth Stadium. I stormed the field. It's been 25, but
Hold on, man.
Louisville basketball should be doing
So
that.
you say you really did storm the field, man?
When in 2011, when they beat Tennessee for the first time in 26 years, yeah, I sure did. I hopped right over the gate, man. I was out there.
So really, we had a lot of Kentucky fans that was on the field celebrating. I know you wasn't the only one out
there. No. See, it was myself, my dad, and my sister. We said we're gonna go to every Tennessee Kentucky game until Kentucky wins. We go to Knoxville, we go to Lexington every year. We was there, and 2011, after 6-7 years of us all three going, Kentucky won, and we all hopped over there with all the Kentucky fans, man.
Oh, that's what's up, man. That's big time.
I got a picture of us all on the field, so yeah, I might.
Hey, man, as long as no fights broke out, you made it home safe. That's all that counts.
That's it. I sent you that Mitch Barnhart. You had to check that out, man.
I'm gonna check it out. Yeah, I will check it out. Okay.
Man, check out every episode. We'll have fun. Sometimes we have guests. Sometimes TD and I just rock. But y'all stay tuned next week for another episode of Bleav in Kentucky. We'll catch y'all next time, baby.
Deuces.